Hello and welcome to another inventRight TV show. My name is Andrew Krause. I'm one of the co-founders, and we have one of our coaches, April Mitchell, on today, and she just licensed one of her products. Welcome, April.
Thank you so much for having me, Andrew. I'm excited to share my experience with everyone.
Cool. We're going to cover so much today. We're going to talk about prototypes. We're going to talk about how she just licensed her product. It's coming out this coming summer, and how when you license a product, it doesn't come out the next day. Isn't that disappointing?
It is. It sure would be nice.
It is. So she's not going to be able to show up. We're going to talk extensively about her experience in licensing this product. And we're going to talk about how getting feedback from companies was absolutely critical for her being able to license this product. And also we're going to talk about using your kids or other people's kids or adults to do a focus group, get feedback to make tweaks and changes. So we're going to have a lot of stuff to cover. So April, what do you want to talk about first? We'll talk about the prototype first.
Sure. Let's talk about the prototype first. So just a little backstory. I came out to my front of the house and the kids were playing, and I thought, what in the world are you guys playing? And I watched them for a little bit, asked some questions, and I thought, this is a really fun game, but we need to figure out how we can take it everywhere and how you can play it anywhere you go. So we had to make it transportable and then maybe calm it down a little bit because it was fun. They were having a good time, but it was like things all over the place.
Was this boys or it was a bunch?
Yes, all boys, my boys and other neighborhood boys, and so they were having a good time. But I'm like, we need to be able to make this so everyone can do it. So I started thinking, how could we do that? And got some ideas of, some things we could use maybe and how it would have to be, made some of my ugly drawings that I do. And then I took my 8th grader at the time to the local home improvement store. And so we walked around and found things that would make it be adjustable and move and just do different things that we needed it to do. And my son built the prototype for me.
And how old was your son?
He was just 13 at the time. Now he's 15. And so he was almost 14 at the time. But yeah, I make my kids work for me.
Well, I think he had some motivation there because he wanted to play it. And when kids want to play, they're motivated.
Yeah, that's true. And they're so great about helping with all aspects of inventing with what we do. It's definitely a team effort here at my house. So he helped. I oversaw him, if you will. But he did a great job. And so we got it so it could work. And then we tried it out, our family and then other kids, neighborhood kids. And so it got to the point where I was pitching it and I started getting that feedback. And so there was some, it's interesting, but, a lot of, like there's something there, but it wasn't ready yet. And so I listened to that feedback. Some feedback was there's too much going on here, right? I kind of had to tone down.
Now, when you pitched, did you, in this case with this product, did you just use a video or did you use a sell sheet or both?
For this one, I used a video. So I just used a video because my prototype, as great as my son made it, it wasn't the best looking. It wasn't like, wow, look at that prototype. So to put it on a sell sheet, I don't think it would do justice of showing it in action. So I just did a video, but got a lot of feedback with that video. And then some other feedback I got was you've got just kids, playing this game in the video. So
they were a little too crazy. Were they, or it was just the fact that there was no 20-somethings or adults in there, and they
exactly. So you say it's a family game or for all ages. We need to see adults playing it, and I thought that was great feedback. So I did some brainstorming on the.
Well, let me stop you there. Some people think they're in the business. They're going to use their imagination, but a lot of times they don't.
Yeah.
They don't. They don't they should be able to figure that out. But they're just going to see whatever they're going to see, and they're going to think whatever they're going to think. Now, did you have to ask for this feedback, or did they give it to you without asking?
I would say some of it I asked for and some of it they gave. So it just kind of depends on the company. Some companies just automatically give you feedback and some don't, and you have to ask. So I do. If they don't give feedback, I will ask. And sometimes they'll not respond, and sometimes they do. So I definitely try to get that feedback whenever possible. So then, so we changed some things up, did brainstorming. I kind of, for a bit, put it on the back burner while figuring things out, and then came back to it and applied the new things that I changed on it, and then reshot the video. Got some young people, adults that, look cool playing the game at the beach to play it for us, some good friends to do that, which was helpful. So then I redid the video with segments of kids playing and adults playing, and kind of back and forth between those. So that was helpful.
And you fixed up the prototype a little bit, so it wasn't quite so crude.
Yeah.
Got it.
So,
and this is a game that you can play on the beach or on the lawn, or I think you have a stand for it, even in the driveway. Right. And it's kind of to me, it seems like there's a hoop and there's a ball. We won't go into more detail than that right now because it's coming out in the summer. But it reminds me of some sort of like ancient Greek or Roman kind of game where you're trying to push each other aside and get the ball in there. But we'll leave it at that. When in the summer, because products don't come out overnight.
Right.
You'll come back and you'll show it.
Right, definitely. And they're already working on improvements and their spin on it, which is great. So we're already in the back and forth. They're asking, what do you think about this? Do you like this? And so it's been really great how this company is involving me in those decisions, which is wonderful.
Now, what are the lessons here? I mean, are you saying that people need these beautiful prototypes? Because quite often your products don't, our students' products don't have them. But in this case, there's a couple things. They weren't feeling it, some of them, because it was just a bunch of young kids, and you said it was for all ages. And then it was maybe the play factor showing in the video was getting a little crazy. Maybe it wasn't quite organized in that, okay, I can see the flow. Like they didn't like the flow. And then the prototype was a little crude too. And you didn't like go, oh, well, I guess I'll just move on to my next idea, did you? No.
And of course I was working on other ideas during this time. I had several other ideas, but I kept at it because if they think there's something to it, but it needs something more, why not explore that more or find that wow factor or find that something that's missing, at least try to before moving on. Because I at least did spend time and making the video and the prototype and pitching. So you already have these relationships already. So fix it and then go back to these people and then find new people to add to your hit list who haven't seen it yet. That way you're just making the most out of your time. I don't want to give up until everyone said no.
So you felt like the fact that they interacted with you and gave you some feedback, whether it was solicited or unsolicited, that's not a no. That's
right.
It's not.
Exactly. Right.
Okay, cool. And you get a little bit more of that in the toy and game business, the feedback, than you do in some other categories. You need to ask for it a little bit more, I think, in other categories. But, some people weren't giving it to you in this category either, and you asked for it.
Right. So it just depends. It depends, I think, on the person that you're communicating with. It depends on the company that you've submitted to. And I think it depends on you, too. Your reaction. If they tell you, no, it's not really a fit, and you're like, well, it's really awesome, and you should take it, and, you're not, and you're rude about it, and then you say, give me, and then you ask for feedback after you're rude, they're not going to give you feedback, know.
Well, you seem like an inventor with a chip on your shoulder, It seem like, and it's like, and they probably won't really look at your future ideas too if you get weird on them like that.
Right. Definitely don't want to become that inventor.
Yeah. So tell us about observing your kids playing these games as you refine the product. And then after we talk about that, I want to talk about that. You can do that for any product. I know your product is a game. Kids, young adults play it too. But you're making these observations. So are you asking them questions? Or are you just kicking back and observing? And this could apply to kids playing a game, or it could apply to watching a construction worker hammer a nail. It could be any.
I think it's so important. So in this case, I think this was the second time that I really did that. One time my kids were, they came home and they were gathering all these supplies. And I'm like, what are you doing? And we're like, we're going into the woods. And I'm like, okay. And then they started explaining to me what they were playing. Yeah. And I thought, this is really neat. And then they would kind of tell me the different scenarios. And well, today this happened and this happened. And so they weren't really real scenarios. but they're explaining it to them. And I thought, this is really fun. I kind of wanted in the action, but in another way. Like, what if we made a board game? Took what they were doing outside and made it a board game so everyone could play. Not every kid has woods, you know, in their backyard and can go do these things. Not everyone is capable of physically going and traipsing through the woods and whatnot. So what if we took these scenarios and actions and fun and put it into a board game? So we had done that before, which I'm currently, you know, pitching that game as well. But so then when I came out and saw my kids playing this crazy fun looking game, I have already been through that process of watching them, asking questions, though observing, and then asking questions, and then thinking, then turning those questions into what if we took what you're doing and made it so everyone can play, and what changes need to be made, and how can we make it so it's a different spin on something that's currently out there, and things like that. And so, and just the other day, the same thing happened. The kids they took an item. I come out of my office and they're flinging things around, and I'm like, what? And there's flying things, and I'm like, that's not what those are for. But I'm like, that works really well. And now
so you encourage your boys to get crazy, huh? Because that's where you get some of your ideas.
It is. I really count on them for their creativity. Now, it sparks my creativity.
Let me ask you this. So then you refine it. Let's say you turn playing into the woods into a board game. And then do you get them to play that too? Because you might be all wrong on that. You know, they'd be like, this is lame, Mom.
For sure. We have to test play it. And I have them help with it. I mean, I have them help with the actually making of the game. And I ask so many questions that then we figure it out. Well, should it be like this? No. Then they say, no, that's not cool. Or no, we wouldn't want to play it like that. And so it's a constant conversation until it's made of how it works. Should it go this way? And then we play it one way. And then while you're playing it, that's what you realize, some things need to be worked out, or you need to change the rules. You need to change things. That's why test playing is so important with games. You have to test play because the game can start out one way and it takes a whole nother direction because of what you thought would work just doesn't, or maybe it's not as fun or whatnot.
Yeah,
so,
super important for games.
Right.
I would say for like a kitchen gadget or something, you know, you don't need to make as much observation, but one big observation you can make, let's say for a kitchen gadget, is stick it in somebody's hands if you have a prototype and see if they understand how to use it. Let's say it's a new can opener or wine bottle opener or something, and they're like, and you're seeing them fumbling, you're like, oh, I better fix something there. So it doesn't just work for games and kids. It works for adults too.
It works for everything. And that same scenario that you just described is that's how you want to have other people play the game. You don't want to have to sit there and explain everything to them. If you can give them the simple rules and give it to them and see if they can figure it out, that's really helpful. And of course, my kids, with having 4, there's always, wherever we're living, there's always other kids in and out of the house in the neighborhood. And so they're always excited to play test the new games. So it's really beneficial for me. And so then I'll ask, hey, is it okay if I videotape or take photos of your kid to use in a video that only, you know, a certain amount of people will see? And everyone's usually good with that. So that's really helpful. Seeing other kids' reactions to the games is really helpful to do that. Yeah.
And I mean, there's a lot of benefit too in showing something to kids, the instructions if it's a game, or just showing a sell sheet to somebody, friends and family. There could be super supportive or super critical or somewhere in between. Doesn't matter. And you say nothing. There's a lot of benefit for them having heard about it. They didn't hear you rambling about it at home. And you just show it to them, and you just, like, if you have a sell sheet on a laptop, you spin it around. You don't say anything, and you look at their face. And you see their eyes going around. You see if they're confused or not. So you don't have to have a prototype even to do this. You can just do it with a marketing piece.
Oh, definitely. I think it's very valuable to get feedback like that.
Or in that area with kids, you could show them the marketing piece and go, does this look, what do you, and they look at it and go, eh. Or they're like, oh, that looks like fun. You know, what do they say? How do they react?
Definitely.
And the marketing managers in these companies, they kind of know how kids will react. So if you did that extra focus group stuff, you're more likely to be successful because you made a few tweaks, you know, to it.
Right. Yeah. And the thing that's interesting though too is even with our kids are, what they do could be different than the kids down the block or this next state over. What's cool over here might not be so cool. And so you think about the trends that are happening, but also, my family doesn't, like our time is limited on internet and YouTube and all these things. And so you have to take, okay, what do my kids like, but what do other kids like, and try to pair that together, because my kids might not like what every other kid is into.
Right, true. You can't.
Because I might not let them use that or do that thing that's really cool. And so to take that into consideration, that just because your kids or your family like it doesn't mean it's going to be a hit with everyone else.
Right.
But everyone else is liking it and your kids like it. Okay, that might be the next sign for you to maybe move forward with it.
Yeah, whether they like it or not is one thing, but then also, even if they don't like it, if you can see them struggling to figure out a product or a game, that can be huge. Even like it, don't like it, did they struggle to figure out how to use it?
Right,
you know?
Definitely.
That can be very beneficial too. So one last thing I want to talk to you about. So, you've licensed a few products, and you're a pro. That's why you're one of our coaches, right? So how do you deal with, or you're just totally okay with it? You just licensed the product. It's not coming out till next summer. It's pretty normal. Are you okay with that? Does it make you anxious, or you just keep yourself busy with other projects? How do you handle that?
I'm okay with that because I know that's just the name of the game. And I'm so occupied. It's kind of like, oh, phew, okay, this one's done. I don't have to keep calling or following up. Now that's one last one I'm working on. So of course it's a celebration. I'm super excited because it is the first game in the toy and game industry for me, because my other products have been in the housewares. So for me, I'm very excited, and I've been developing these relationships with people in the toy and game industry for a couple years now, and they've been just amazing, and I've learned so much. And at the same time, I'm also I'm still pitching another dozen products and working on a few more to get ready for the next show. So there's just so much going on that it's kind of like, oh, good, I don't have to worry about this one anymore.
You're a pro. All your students are very lucky to have you as their coach.
Thank you.
I want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. And we'll have you back in the summer. We're gonna show some fun stuff. We're gonna show your first video, how it was kind of not working. We're gonna show the new video that you came out with. Maybe talk more about the prototype, all that fun stuff. So we'll have you back. Sounds good. Wonderful. Thanks for having me. Thank you, April. Remind everybody to take care, keep inventing, and we'll catch up with you next time. See ya. Bye. Bye.